Are you worried about scratching, damaging, or dropping your bike? I was, until I discovered these tricks that totally transformed the way I use my bike every day and how I look after it. So in this video, I'm going to show you 6 insane hacks that might just prevent serious damage to both you and your bike. Some of which may be common knowledge to some, but just might be a secret to others. Number 4 is my personal favorite. This first one might just completely transform the way you clean your bike. Cleaning your bike is a chore at the best of times. You gotta get the bucket, sponge, and the hose pipe out. You can't even remember where you left them, so you spend most of your time looking for them, getting more agitated by the minute. And then if you haven't given up by that point, you then gotta wash it. All the tiny crevices of dirt and bug. It's exhausting. But you're left with a gleaming, shiny, scratch-free beauty when you're done. Unless a bird on it immediately. So it's worth it, right? Well, it is, only if you're using the 2 bucket method. If you're not, all of the dirt and you're cleaning off your bike will actually get picked up on your sponge and then scratch your bike as you continue washing it. The solution? Using 2 buckets. Using one as a dirty bucket in which you clean all the scratchy boys off the sponge, leaving them in said dirty bucket. And the other bucket with clean, non-scratchy, soapy water, which is then used to clean the bike without leaving any damage. If done right, you'll be very surprised at just how filthy the one bucket gets, whilst the other one remains clean. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I hate cleaning my bike. Well, so do I. But what I hate more is the thought of my bike falling over. Speaking of which, this next one is a problem that can really take you by surprise, unlikely to affect most of us, but if it does, it's terrifying. Wearing good gear is critical. If you go down and you don't have it, you're in a world of hurt. And you only have yourself to blame. But I'm sure at one point in time, some of us have ridden in normal shoes, despite us knowing that they offer very little in terms of protection. And if you're a contributor to this percentage, or if your actual gear has laces like my very old boots, you're probably aware of the more common danger. That moment you go to put your foot down to balance the bike and your laces get caught on the foot peg. Your heart drops to the floor and you panic as you think of the bike falling to the ground without your foot there to stop it. You can do the old tuck down the side method, but this can be very uncomfortable as it rubs on the side of your foot. The solution? Simply lift a row of laces and tuck the loose boys in. Alternatively, you can just buy decent boots. But if you are going to ride with laces, at least do this to avoid falling over unnecessarily. This next one only works for very specific scenarios, but if it does work, it can be significantly helpful. But first, a storage hack. Picture this. It's winter. The bike's going away for its hibernation. A deep, cozy sleep in which it won't be beaten on and abused. Now, whether you're parking it outside in the cold or in a garage, you might be thinking, this cover will keep my bike dry and dust-free away from all the bad elements of the world. Which, to some extent, is true, but you might be doing it wrong. Whilst basic outdoor bike covers are incredibly effective at keeping the bike dry, free from dust, and from UV damage, if done wrong, it might be scratching the paint. The solution? Well, you can get some really good covers that will actually have a soft liner on the inside, whilst maintaining the more abrasive materials on the outside. This way, the outside is still waterproof, but the inside is soft enough that it's not scratching and scuffing the paint. If you only have a cheap outdoor cover like me, simply cover the bike with a softer material first, and then chuck on the waterproof over the top. Also, washing the bike before storage and tying the covers down, especially if stored outside, can make a huge difference in helping protect the paint. Taking the plunge into servicing, repairing, or modifying your bike is incredibly exciting, but it can be very daunting at first, especially if you've never worked on your bike before. When I first started, I was very overwhelmed. I was scared I'd break something, or even worse, forget how it goes back together. Now, although they are very real issues, a more common issue is simply forgetting what bolt goes where, especially when a specific part has different size and length bolts. There's nothing worse than finishing hours worth of work on your bike and you see you've got a few bolts left over. What do these guys do? Are they important? Am I gonna die? Weight reduction, am I right? A simple solution to avoid this. Step 1, grab a piece of cardboard. Step 2, draw out the part. And step 3, put the bolts into their respective places on the cardboard. An easy hack to keep track of which bolt goes where. Of course, this only works in very specific scenarios, but you could also just take a photo on your phone or put the bolts back in their place after you've removed the part. Not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it can be really helpful. This next one might just prevent your worst nightmare coming true, but first, a gear hack. Now, if you're anything like me, you spend a lot of your time crying. You spend a lot of your time not sure what gear to take on your ride. Am I going to be cold? Is it going to rain? Will these gloves be warm enough? It's warm now, but will it be later? Or even worse, you need to go out on your bike, but it's raining and you don't have any waterproof gloves. The solution? Grab some disposable gloves from the shed, slap them on, then slap your normal gloves over the top. Not only are your hands protected from the wet bike glove, but they're also warm. A great solution if you either don't have or can't afford waterproof gloves. I personally found this most useful when on a road trip in the Alps. In the mornings, in the peaks, it was very, very, very cold. But of course, for 99% of the trip, it was hot. So I only brought my summer gloves. This trick worked really well in keeping my hands from being so cold they fall off. I now keep a few of these stowed away in the bike as I never know when it might come in handy. There's honestly nothing worse than having freezing cold, wet hands. Now you might be thinking to yourself, there is actually something worse than freezing cold, wet hands. And I agree. Let's take a look. Now I can't be the only one that constantly worries about their bike, especially when I've taken it out and parked it in a new place. The whole time I'm out, I'm thinking, is my bike okay? Has a bird shit on it? Has someone touched it? Has it fallen over? Then I remember I've parked it on a hill, and now I'm panicking. Did I park it with the front of the bike facing downhill? Has the worst happened? Has it rolled forward slightly, causing the side stand to collapse? The solution? Well, park the bike with the front of the bike facing uphill, and then slap it in gear. This way the side stand won't collapse, and as the bike's in gear, it shouldn't move at all. Which is great, because I think we can all agree that coming back to your bike and finding it on the floor would be beyond devastating. These hacks are mostly to keep your bike from getting damaged unnecessarily, and this is critical, but riding for yourself is just as important, as it might just save your life. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video here, where we look at common riding mistakes even more experienced riders make. From these 6 hacks, let me know which is your favorite and share yours down in the comments.